Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for being here today. Hi, my name is Kristen Savitt, and this is Unstoppable Coaching. I am thrilled to bring you a massive amount of information, knowledge, experience, and just honestly over 2 decades of both fitness, coaching, nutrition, mindset, and business. Those specific things intertwined together, and especially with being online. So a little bit background is that I've been multinational athlete in CrossFit, weightlifting, and I was the first female in NASCAR history to be on the Sprint Cup, which is the highest level. And I really love going for a challenge. So you can see that whenever I apply myself fully and wholeheartedly. And I have been coaching for over 2 decades in person and online. I went from G-Docs to an app to expanding that worldwide, 2 national best-selling books that I also did a worldwide tour with. And fun fact, a little bit outside of the fitness and business realm, is that I actually was on Big Brother season 19 and 22 for All Stars. So if that doesn't give you a little bit of an idea about my passion for tenacity and whatever I decide to do, I go for it full-heartedly, then I'm not sure what else I can tell you that will convince you of that. So that brings me to today. I want to be able to not only just change people's lives through health, wellness, and nutrition, which I've done for a long time. That's what my purpose is as a coach. That's what I really root in my spirit. And now I want to take that, all that expertise, and help other people be able to build the empire that I have built. Not exactly, but the way they want to have it so they can have control and freedom in their life and be able to live in their passion and their purpose and be able to make a beautiful, scalable, sustainable business that they are passionate about, changing people's lives and impacting them a lot like I have, but in their own signature way. So understand that this is not the Christmas Abbott template. You're not going to do the same thing that I did, because I did it such before so many of these amazing tech savvy features that we have today in, and I did a lot of learning. So I'm going to give you the streamlined version of what I've found to work best, but also you're going to be able to tailor this to you, your needs, and your business application, your business plan. And if you don't have one, totally okay. Don't be scared, okay? Don't be scared, I promise you. I love teaching fundamentals, and that's what this is about. This is about your fitness business coaching fundamental to be able to really tackle those scary parts that you're not sure about: social media marketing, branding, messaging, how to actually sell, asking for money, asking for a repeat, all of those things that a coach doesn't really like to do. I don't know a coach, I've never come across a coach that's like, I love to sell things, let's get to it. They're like, no, I just want to help the person. Well, that's really amazing, but you also have to keep your electricity on. So that's what I'm here to do, is to help you establish this beautiful continuum of business, branding, marketing, selling, and retaining your clients through this life cycle that, like I said, it's not exactly the way that I did it or the way that I would do it. It's a template for you to be able to take and construct the way that you need to have to fit into your life, your brand. And if you don't have it, that's okay. We got you. So I'm excited to bring one of the very first topics to the floor for discussion. And we'll just keep letting people in as they come in. And what is kind of beautiful about business is that there is no wrong way. And when people are like, oh, that's a terrible way, it may not be the most efficient or effective for that person, or even you where you are right now, but maybe that's what you needed to do to get to where you are now. So let me change my view. Give me 1 second. So when you are looking at your messaging, your client, I want you to think about a few key things. So I actually have a really great workable ebook that walks you through all of this process. Let me back up for a second. When you're able to know your core client, like your most ideal, your most impacted, there's a lot of different names for this. And so don't get confused on the vernacular of business where people are like, they use avatar, they use client, they use your most impacted person. This is the person that you want in your program. This is the person that you want to coach. So let's be clear about that. This is the person that is going to most benefit from you, what you have to offer. And that is what is that's the person that we're looking at today. Now, that is not to be confused with some people like, well, my most ideal coach, my most ideal client is something that I want to do X, Y, Z, but they're also so far in destitute that they can't pay. So you also have to find a nice balance of being able to make a living and being able to find a person that you want to coach. Being coachable is one of those things. Before you get into that person, right? Before you get into, because we're going to get into the demographics, we're going to get into like what they eat in the morning, what their mindset is, all of these beautiful contributions that the avatar, if you haven't seen the movie, it's like a simulation of a human being. And the more details you can get about that simulation to create this character, the clearer you're going to be in your messaging and the clearer you're going to be. And when you talk to them, they're going to feel like you're talking directly to them and that you have the answer and you're the only person, and it creates this beautiful trust. So before we even get into the simulation of that or creating your avatar, understanding your most perfect, ideal, impacted client, you have to know who you are. And I know that sounds like whimsical, and it's like, no, Christmas, I know ABC, this is business. Business is not cold. Business is really warm, it's nurturing. And there's a constant quote that's always floating around there. People don't buy products, people buy people. And your client is going to believe in you if you believe in you. And if you believe in your program and you're like, I know this works. I know because I've done it for either myself. Usually coaches are the best testimony for themselves. I know because it's been proven through this concept. Look at these testimonials. I know because of this worldwide experience that I have. When you have this conviction, even if you haven't applied the program and you know it works because it's something that you believe in, people will also believe that it works, even if they haven't seen a proven concept. So when you know yourself, you're like, hi, I'm Christmas Abbott. I am high energy. I love to activate people into action. Like I am an energy shifter through fitness, nutrition, wellness, coaching, and business. But what I do is I take them into a journey of my experiences that they can apply to their life and activate them that when they look at their life again, they're like, never again, or always will I. And it just changes the storyline. It changes the relationship between you and this person that you have honestly probably never met before. So when you know yourself, you know your product, you know your program, you know what you have to offer. That's what we also talk about too, is what's your offer? And people are like, oh, well, so the first thing is knowing yourself. The second thing is knowing your offer. Your offer, which we dive deep into. We're talking about day to day. Is it a 3-month offer? Is it a month-to-month offer? Is it a 6-month offer? And I have a lot of input on that, on best practices. But if you're like, Christmas, I just like, if I sign up, trying to get somebody to sign up for a 6-month program, that's too daunting to me. Then even though it's a best practice to get a longer contract committed for financial stability and the outcome consistency for your client, then it's just going to be too much for you and you're not going to do it. So if you're not enjoying this process, you're not going to be giving your best self. You're not believing in yourself, and then your client's not going to be believing in you either. So so knowing your program that works for you and being passionate about that. We can break this down in a lot of different ways. I don't go into the details today on that. This is a whole nother segment of building your program. And it needs to be something that I always suggest that you've already done it, but that you believe in. And it's not something that you just pulled from the internet and you're like, okay, here's my program. I'm going to try and sell this. People will smell that inauthenticity quickly. people will know that this is not you because it's not representing who they know of you, who you say you are. And then they get this, like, for me, I'd give them, I'm a little different. I do really heavy lifting, but then I do, my workout programs are very tailored to the on the go, no equipment. But I'm not trying to tailor it to a wrestler or a baseball player. Those are specific details that don't really apply to what I'm about. So if I went on social media and started talking about, hey, I have this great program that's going to get you jacked in 90 days and you're going to be looking like you just ate yolks for breakfast every day, bro. People are going to go, Christmas has lost her mind, because that hasn't been consistent with what I show up as for myself, what I show up as for social media, and what I show up as in my program, which is what you're really extending to your client. So these are your core client concepts. I mentioned this earlier. This is a third major point that I want you to take home, is the process. Not necessarily the process of discovering your client, which we're going to get into, but the process of actually coaching. And a lot of coaches don't want to deal with the social media. They don't want to deal with the business side. But what we have discovered most as a coach is that we avoid the things that serve us best the most. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to do my taxes. I don't want to do this workout. I don't want to do meal prep. I don't want to do the laundry. When we start to create these walls of avoidance, to skip the process to get to the end, we're actually cheating ourselves of the internal reward, the feeling of success that roots us in and creates this connection to who we are, what we're doing, and the outcome of it. So if we're just chasing that outcome, we're never going to actually be happy with it. And that is like a super high level internal reflection on where you are with yourself in your life. I know, seems a little like not business-like, but it absolutely is. If you are not, in my opinion, you can see success with skipping the process, but you're not going to see long-term success because you're not going to stick to it because you don't love what you're doing. And when you're not loving what you're doing, it's fast to fail. So understanding that getting a process that you enjoy, there might be some resistance there, but that resistance is a testament to that growth that you're ready for. And when you're ready for that growth, you're going to be like, oh, I don't want to, but discipline comes into play here, but I'm going to. Instead of, I don't want to, I don't feel like it, which is, like I talked about that earlier, then you're going to just not stick with it, and nothing's ever going to work out consistently for you because you're not consistently showing up for yourself, and you're not going back to that first pillar where knowing yourself and loving yourself enough to respect the process. So again, like I said, it's loving the process actually gets you better results. Maybe it's a different goal, but even if you don't hit your goal, you're going to actually be happier with what you've accomplished than just skipping the process and getting higher than what your goal was, because you've done the work. The work yields the success. Another thing is, once you know, 1, yourself, 2, your program, 3, the process, and you can have some goals. Now, those are always moving targets, I'd say. I try not to get too hung up on that, because that is a moving target depending on a couple of different factors that we'll get into another session. Now you can actually decide who you want to help. Who is your client? So let's dig into that a little bit. I want to screen share with y'all for a minute just a workbook that I have Give me one moment. There we go. All right, so you guys do not have access to this yet, which is totally okay. But these are some of the programs. I have a lot of programs for you guys. I'm just not releasing them all at once. But this is one of the programs that I'm excited that will really be a main pillar in you building your social media, your marketing, your process is understanding your avatar, which is your client. All right. So going to the beginning, this is streamlined. This is not for sale yet because you guys are here today. I'm going to go ahead and send this to you each free. As long as you are in my school, you will have access to this for free. But anybody here afterwards, this will be a paid program for them. So this digs in a little bit of understanding who they are and creating this avatar, this simulation, this perfect client, this most impacted client. And a lot of people will struggle with understanding who their most impacted client is because they don't know what they're offering. They're like, oh, well, I kind of want to do this and I kind of want to do that and I kind of want to do this. Well, you can reverse engineer it so you can flip these around. You can find your perfect client and know what they need and tailor your program to that. Or you can know what you want to offer and then tailor your perfect client. Either way, you have to know one or the other to start. So this is just the process that I like. Again, there's no bad business processes, just some that are not as effective and efficient. In there, you'll see that at the bottom, there are going to be resources that you can download, which if you open this one, you can see that this is your avatar and it goes into the same description that I was talking about in the module. But really what we're looking for is being the most descriptive of who this person is, what kind of life they live, how you're going to why do they need you? What is their life lacking right now? What is their mental state lacking? What is their physical state lacking that they want to include that you have and you can help them? So this is another fun little insight is that like I always tell people, I'm like, you are your best example. You are your best testimonial. And because when you talk about your personal story and not just a clinical business approach, people relate and they're like, man, I really Christmas struggled with XYZ when she was a teenager. She struggled with this when she was in her 20s. She struggled this in her 30s. She went through a divorce. This is what she struggled with. I relate to that. And her messaging, what I say and how I say it, resonates with them. And so they're feeling intimate with my story. They're feeling intimate with my program. They're feeling intimate with my messaging. And that is why I need to know exactly who I'm talking to. So this goes into building your avatar, and really it goes into, I'll go back to the module because it has these questions spelled out. So you can print the avatar, you can print the ebook and work in it. I'm a big pen and paper kind of girl, or you can just kind of do it on your own. These questions are very pointed, which a lot of people struggle with because they haven't really thought about it. There's nothing wrong with thinking about your personal experience and kind of applying that and then tailoring it to who you want to help, sell, create. This is really about looking into their life. This is not about what you can do for them yet, but seeing their schedule. Are they constantly hitting the snooze button? Or do they wake up ready to go? Are they cooking breakfast for one kid, 5 kids, or just themselves eating breakfast do they even eat breakfast? Are they suddenly falling out of all of their clothes because they've lost too much weight because of stress? Or are they busting out of their pants because they've overate because of stress? All of these factors come into play when you're looking at this. So really, what are their goals? Why haven't they hit their goals? What kind of experiences are they having? Digging in as much as possible. And this is a really great starting point. You can have 1 or 2 word answers or get into a whole paragraph, but the more you dig into this part, the better your avatar and the better understanding you're going to know of your client, which means clearer and more concise and more compelling messaging, which means that you are going to talk to more specific clients. People are going to hear you talking to them, even if it's on social media and you're not actually having a conversation with them. So this is your most successful client. Think about the person that you've helped before. What do they look like? Not just physically, but like their, what did you do to help them be so successful? This is really a tailorship for your success stories, your testimonials, how you can create this end result. So you have the person, it's again a continuum, it's like a path, right? You have the person where they are right now, and then you have the person that you've helped. You want to describe that because that really does craft your message well, because you want to take the person that you've helped before and the person that is not yet in your either sales funnel or in your knowing about or you're in their ear or sights. They're going to want to hear this person's story and go, I want that. Do you guys like my puppet hands? Oh, here's what's happened to me. This is what the person that I've helped and that happened to them. Give it to me. And they're going to jump into your coaching program. So understanding what you've done before is a huge success already. Again, you can download the worksheet. Now, this is where a lot of people come into pain points, pain selling, pressure selling. I'm not suggesting that. I don't like that. I know how it works very intimately, but there is a benefit to understanding your client's pain points. Going back to your avatar, the person that you've designed, you have to know why they hit that snooze button. Why are they eating over the sink? Why are they not fitting into their pants? Why are they not, they're bulging out of their pants? All of these problems, these challenges, these issues, these frustrations, you have to list it. And it gets really into that specific, because when you know the root of it, it's kind of like remember in school, and my teacher would drive me crazy, but why? But why? Or your kid asks you that, but why? But why? But why? There's never an answer that just says just because, even though parents say that, I get that. But really what it comes down to is a couple root issues that are either child psychology or, sabotage beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, these different challenges that have blocked them. They're blocking their own way. And now you're trying to figure out what's the best way to unblock them. Are they ready to unblock? Those are two very different questions that yield very different results, but knowing that they're blocked is important. And so, especially here, what is keeping them stuck? Is it financials? Is it belief in self? And if it's financials, it's like, really, okay, but what are you scared of? And so we really start getting into that in a later chapter about like what their fears are and being able to overcome those, which again, all of this results in positive, clear, concise messaging. But you understanding why they're not doing what you would want them to do or getting out of their own way is huge, because that will help you also filter in who you want to work with. All right. Before we go back to the fears, we go to the biggest success. So say you were able to work with this person and you knew all their biggest problems. You're like, I got your answer. And you're like, because you've developed this perfect person, you know exactly who they are, right? And then you knew all of their problems. And you're like, but with each problem, I have a correlating answer. I know why you're tired and you hit your snooze button every night, because your sleep is not regulated, because your nervous system's out of whack, because you're not doing X, Y, and Z. Guess what? I have X, Y, and Z in my program. So in my program, I'm going to have you go through these exercises or these events or this process, and that is going to give you the results of better sleep regulation, deeper, more restorative sleep. You're going to wake up with energy without having to turn your alarm off 5 times. So now you're seeing the positive results of identifying their negative lifestyle and their problems. That's what I want you to do, is correlate what you have in your program. And man, you better actually have it in your program, okay? Let me have a real moment. Have it in your program. Because if you don't have it in your program, people are like, well, you said that I was going to do this action, but you didn't. So, talking about programming, how you want to approach this is another subject. But if you're like, I'm doing it this way, where I'm identifying my client needs because I have this specific program, you're kind of reverse engineering it. Just be cognizant of that. So this is talking in a way that if you had that client and all of their issues and their lifestyle challenges, and they went through your program, what were their successes with you in your program? So if it's problem number 1, you have success number 1. Problem number 1 should directly relate to success number 1. Keeping it very clean and simple and streamlined will help your messaging much easier when you start crafting these messages. That is huge. And that's why I say you have to intimately know your client. Now, when the person, I have a whole list of pushing past your client's fears. At no point do I want to say, well, there's some high sale fear tactic sales training does this, or like, well, wouldn't your husband want you to join my program for $4,500 if he was here? Okay, maybe not. But that kind of pressure I don't want to do. But understanding their fear, you can actually talk to their fear without actually asking them what their fear is. So this pushing back your client's fears, it really just kind of gives another psychological layer into that messaging when you understand what their problems are, and then ultimately, oh, it's not in there. And then ultimately understanding what their desires are. So knowing their fear, you can flip it again. I'm always about flipping the script, flipping their fear into a desire and talking to their desire. And you heard me talk about where if you have a fear-based client, they're going to be whimsical. They're going to be not committed. They're going to be talking about emotional decisions. They're going to be, and some decisions are emotional anyway, but they're going to be talking about, they need motivation. They're going to need more of your time. They're going to need more of they're going to be demanding more of you. But if you talk to a desire-based client where they're like, I'm ready for this. I want this. I need this. I'm going to do this. They're going to be more disciplined. They're going to be more consistent. They're going to need less of you because they're going to do what you tell them to do. They're going to be more action-based. So there's another module that I put in, and maybe I didn't hit save, I'm not sure, but there's another module in here that talks about their desire. So understanding what changes in their life, like really, their life changes, are they going to see once they're done with their program? And it seems repetitive, but what we're doing is we're drilling in this understanding of your perfect client because you have the perfect solution for their needs. When you understand their wants, their desires, even if it's not a problem, you have what they need. They want to feel better. They want to be able to run with their kids. They want to be able to run a 5K with their family. They want X, Y, and Z. Then you can be like, okay, my program, by the end of my program, you're going to be able to run a 5K with your kids without having to stop. By the way, you could probably pick them up and carry them as a rucksack. That was very specific messaging. Because to me, I'd be like, that's the program I want because my kid is 55 pounds and he's heavy and I want to run a 5K, but I know that he's not going to run that far. Do you understand where I'm going with that? And so I can't run 5Ks because my kid can't keep up or I can't carry him. So I want your program because that's what my specific goal is, because it's family oriented and it makes me feel a certain way. Okay? Was that a hype enough answer for you guys? Another thing too, and before we get into the last little bit, is client testimonies. Listen, if you don't have any, don't make them up. Okay? Just make sure that as soon as you're working with somebody, even from the very beginning, even from that first day, hey, how did that make you feel? Hey, what are your thoughts? Getting in and getting connected to your client because you know who they are, you're invested in their life. You don't have to have 24 hours conversation with them, but you knowing, literally designing your avatar means you know a lot about them already. And they know a lot about you because you've talked clearly to them, even though you've never had one conversation. And that's what all this does, is this creates this beautiful flow of communication and connection. And it just it creates this beautiful trust where you can nurture this relationship more and more and more. That is going to give you the best, most committed client in the world. So when you're able to trust yourself, know yourself, you know your program or your client, because you can create a program on the client or client from the program, whichever one you decide. This is the way that I prefer, but either one of those, then you're going to be able to have a beautiful conversation with them and really connect to a lot of people that you would never thought that you could reach out to, and they're going to reach out to you because they hear your messaging, they hear what you have to offer, they see the results of your program, and they want what you're offering. Okay. So I want to say real fast, let's see. Is it still screen sharing? Yes. Oops. Stop. Okay. So thank you guys for coming in here. I'm super excited that you guys showed up. Thank you. We have a few minutes left before it kicks me off. I have a few questions that some people asked previously, and I want to answer at least two of them before I open the floor. One said, I keep attracting clients that were not ready to be on board or take this jump or come on in. One, again, I'm going to go ahead and be real bold about this. The person that is attracting the client that isn't willing to pay or isn't ready to jump in, go back to your messaging. Go back to who your client is and what you're offering, how you're offering it. You aren't being clear on who you are and what you're doing because they're coming to the table confused about what you're having a conversation about. Or you're not confident in what you're offering and it comes off whimsical and unclear. Does that make sense? It does. This was a good one. My clients annoy me. Let's talk about it. Going back to the foundation, you did not set up positive boundaries with your client, meaning that you're just opening the door and letting people come in, and you're giving either too much access to yourself, or you're just really, it's just no positive boundaries. So that's one thing that we talk about, and I love doing this with my one-on-one coaching, is actually going through and critiquing and just like giving them feedback and auditing, their contracts and their processes, because a lot of them were like, oh, I literally was talking to a girl last night and she was like, well, I let them DM me every 24, I have a 24/7 WhatsApp messaging board, but I can't get to my Instagram DMs for future clients. And I said, look, you have to put up these boundaries. This is in your processes. And you say, I'm available from this time to this time if you're going to be able to offer that. That's a lot of time for money action. And then when you have these hard office times, these create good boundaries, then the client actually stays and retains longer because they feel like people respond well on respect and boundaries. And now she's going to be able to go and answer her DMs and bring in more clients because she actually has the time to do so. So it's really awesome. So give give me 1 second. This it's gonna kick me off, and I want to make sure it doesn't kick me off. Okay. I forgot that I had the. Okay. Okay, we'll get back in there. Let me look and see, Joe. Clients start off excited, but then procrastinate and run out of gas. How do I keep them going? So there's a couple things that I would suggest. Thanks, Joe, for that. A couple things that I would suggest quickly before I get kicked off is expectations. When you first bring on board them, hey, these are my expectations. If you're not going to meet these expectations, then my time is valuable like yours. I respect your time. Mine is also valuable. So let's go ahead and make this agreement. Agreements are amazing, especially for coaches, because you get to hold them to responsibility and they feel more disciplined in doing what they need to be doing. The other thing too is with that, systems for check-ins. They check in, but then they get a notice that they haven't checked in. And all of this should be automated. So that's kind of the beautiful part about a lot of this tech is that everything is automated. And then nurturing your community so they feel heard, seen, and understood, and they keep coming back because you're adding value constantly. And they're like, I don't want to miss this one. I don't want to miss this one. I don't want to miss this one. So those are just a couple key things. But what I'm going to do, Joe, is I'm going to expand on that question because I think that's such a great question. It's such a good, powerful conversation. All right, guys. Well,